Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode on the Global Love Podcast. My name is Rosalia Shiweva. I'm your host of this podcast. And this podcast is speaking about love, sharing love stories, especially in the global expert community. And today we are glanced by the esteemed author from Visual Book Tour 2024, that is Tshepo. He will introduce himself shortly. I would love also to welcome all the participants who are here recording with us. This episode will be aired on our podcast platforms, including as well our YouTube platform. And we're so happy to be speaking to Tshepo on about his love story, but also speaking about his book that he authored. Before we get started, Tshepo, thank you. Welcome to today's episode.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Rose. It is a pleasure to be here.
Please introduce yourself, including everything that you would love the audience to hear about you.
My introduction keeps on getting longer every year. So I'm going to try my best to be as short as I possibly can. Maybe like 20 minutes just to introduce.
As long as you would love. We have all the time in the world to listen to you today. Yeah.
So my name is Tshepo Matlhekethla. That's my full name. I am a South African who lives and works in China. I am married with two daughters, one being 11 years old and the other one is 5 months old. And I am a teacher, this year teaching grade 6 and grade 7 mathematics and science. And I've been a teacher for a couple of years, almost 8 years now. I am also an author, a published author with a book, of course, which is what we're going to be talking about today. But I wrote mostly poetry and a whole lot of other journals, which I have not published yet. So I'm into writing, I'm into reading, I'm into music, I'm into a whole lot of things. I'm a lot. I believe we'll even touch on some of them as we go through the interview. But that is who I am. And most of all, I am a child of God, God-fearing human. That's what I am.
Oh, wow. What a beautiful introduction. If I've attempted to introduce you, I would have maybe missed out a lot of things. But thank you for with us your life. I love that. And you mentioned that you are married because this podcast is on love, sharing love experience, especially the positive love experiences. We'd love, before we get into the book that brought us to today's episode, we would love to speak on maybe give us a brief of how you met your wife.
Okay.
And share with the audience what are those things that you feel like this must do for love to work between people, whether it's in friendship, whether it's in family. You can give us those tips. We're so I know that was not part of our preparation, but I think that would be really good for our audiences. Please get into that. Yes.
All right, no problem. Well, I met my wife 4 years ago here in China. And at the time, I had come for my job, but she had already been here in China. So she's South African, and I was looking for other South Africans to meet, just because I was feeling lonely and missing home. And somebody introduced me to somebody. And finally, we got together as a group of South Africans on that one night, 5 of us. We spent the whole night together, catching up on everything we missed out, whether they've been in China for long or for a short period of time. And we just partied all night until 8 o'clock in the morning. And in the morning, I'm like, guys, are we going to sleep or are we going to eat breakfast? And so we decided to go eat breakfast. And we all stomped out of the house, went to KFC, had breakfast. And then only then did I remember, you know what? I do not have soap in my house. So would you please, if you don't mind later today, take me to one of the supermarkets and show me how to get soap? She's like, okay, no problem. We'll meet sometime at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I have to go sleep. So we went our separate ways. And that afternoon, instead of buying soap, she came with another friend of ours. We went to go eat pizza. We had popcorn and we went and watched a movie. And did we buy the soap? No, we didn't. We did not buy the soap on the first day.
Wow.
So
well,
so it was an immediate friendship spark that I had with my wife, and the friendship grew from there. And we first, in our first 5 or 6 months, we were just friends, sharing the gospel with each other, having fellowship, eating together, going to places together. We even had a road trip within the first month of our friendship, if you know what I mean. And it was so amazing. And eventually, after about some 6 months, we decided, oh, well, things happened in China where we had to move to the next city. And she's like, if you move into the next city, please move to a city where I will move to. We could have something going on here. And I'm like, of course. So we applied for the same job. We got hired by the same company, and I moved first and she followed a month later. And then we co-inhibited for about the next 6 months, and I decided, oh no, I'm feeling bad because God is watching me, man. I cannot be co-inhibiting and saying I'm a Christian. Okay, so I need to take this one step further. I need to marry this
Hold on. I was going to
woman.
ask you, child of God, huh? Okay, give us the tea. But I love that. I love that honesty. I love that honesty. Yes, continue with us. Yeah, with that story.
So about a year later, that was February in 2021, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna save up some money. I was still very broke by then. I saved up some money, bought a ring, Taobao, and I proposed with a Taobao ring. Hello, is everybody still there?
Yes, we're all here.
Okay. I proposed with a Taobao ring, and I told her, listen, more than anything, more than this ring, what I really need for to happen is that you and I are honest before God and before ourselves. We need to come clean and let people know that we have an honest relationship going on here, and I want you to be my partner for life. I think I've had a year of observing you, and I've seen you through summer, through spring, through winter, and through autumn, and I know for sure that I would like to take this further than what it is. And that time she said yes. She said yes, and we started making plans of how to get married in that year. Of course, the whole Vingi Vongo of COVID did not allow us to go home and get married. So we did everything in China. We signed in China. We had our photo shoot in China, and then we planned for the wedding in South Africa that never happened for the past 3 years. It finally happened this year when we went home.
Oh, so much congratulations. Congratulations on that.
Oh,
Yes, and moving swiftly forward, what do you think, love, what are some maybe characters or habits that you felt like should be paramount part of love for people to really have those healthy relationships, or just to share love in a healthy way? Maybe you can share with the audience some of those tips, and then we'll get into the book.
Well, we learned from church that your relationship with God and your wife's relationship with God should form a triangle. So the stronger your relationship with God is, God being at the top, you being on the one side, your wife on the other. The stronger the relationship is, the smaller the triangle gets. And then that makes you guys extremely strong. You are inseparable. And that's the first basis of everything. If you can have God in your relationship between the three of you, the three people in your relationship is you and God and your wife. And then the next step is you must have the same vision and the same understanding of what finances mean. Because majority of relationships are broken down by our psychology of finances, and we don't say them at church. They don't preach about such things, but it's reality when you finally have to decide what school your wife is going to continue studying, and you're wasting money, but she's like, but you knew I wanted to study. Why are we even together? So the psychology of how money works is extremely important between two people. Get that out of the way before even proposing the person. Yeah.
Yes.
And the third thing is love languages. Love languages are extremely important for improving yourself because nobody's perfect. And so in the relationship, you find that maybe you thought your wife's love language was words of affirmation, but later on you find out she's got two or three others. But if you didn't know about that, you wouldn't know how to adjust yourself and keep on changing yourself in order to accommodate her. And thus, when she sees you accommodating her, she does the same. It's a love language balance understanding.
Yeah, Thank you for those tips. We really highly appreciate, because we believe that love is possible. We believe that people can still have really strong and healthy relationship, even in the 21st century, even in this year, 2024, where a lot of people are really going through it, especially when it comes to relationship building. It's not only just non-platonic, but even platonic when it comes to family members. I think even those tips can speak highly in those relationships. So thank you for sharing those tips. Tshepo, I love also throughout the introduction that you've mentioned, I think you've really shared some intentionality that you took in your life, and I would love to applaud you for that. We need more examples of intentionality living, whether it's you are a Christian, and we know that we speak to a global community, whether they might be practicing different religions, but there has been intentionality in your life, and that is really applaudable. Thank you for sharing one more time. Right, let's get into the book. You've published a book this year, yes?
It was actually published last year. Let me check. It feels like 2 years ago already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 2023. Yes, that's when it was published.
Right. Share that with the audience, the title of your book. You can also maybe share with them. I think your blurry background, so it will impact you sharing us the book. You could change your background just for a few minutes, and then we can see, yes, the title of the book. I think it's yes. Okay.
Oh,
just because it's blurry in the background, then it will impact the way the book will come out. But yeah,
how do I change the blurriness?
You can change. You can go back to default where you change your background to your original background, and then you can share with us the book, and then you can go back later.
Okay, let me see this. So I go to video.
Yes, background.
Background. Is it
part background and effect? Background and effect.
Is it, oh, let's see, whiteboards, new whiteboard. I'm looking at the bottom. Let's see more, record, apps, AI companion, raise hand, react, chat, and participants. I don't see. Okay, let's see. Hide view. Meeting.
Okay, if you cannot see it, it's fine. You can read the title. You can get
So the book is titled "That Cloud Has a Silver Lining." Ooh, it almost appeared. Ooh, but it's kind of big. If you may see the size of my head, okay, this is the size.
Yes.
That cloud has a silver lining, and you notice that the silver is spelled YL, not IL. That's because my second name, as I had mentioned, is Sylvanus, and I derived my second name and I put it in the space of the silver as part of a catchy thing, so that people can actually ask me about it. Why did you put a Y instead of an I? And I want to tell you, I'm adding a hint of what I've experienced into your life. Yeah, and yeah, the book is a poetry anthology. It is a great list of poetry that is themed, like throughout the whole book. You'll find there are themes that you follow. There's introduction to myself, then introduction to love, there's family, there's relationship with God, and just a whole lot, and relationship with life. Just so it does cover a broad aspect of topics, but there's a lot of love in there going on, and I mean a lot, because I have been in and out of relationships throughout my growing up, and as a matter of fact, I recorded a lot of it in the form of poetry. So a lot of this poetry speaks about what I've been through in relationships. Some of them were meant to happen, but they didn't happen. Some of them happened, and others ended before they happened. So I wrote about the breakup, and that's what you actually find inside the book.
Okay, great. Speaking more on the title, The Cloud Has a Silver Lining, yeah?
Yes.
Or maybe what message you're trying to give with the title of the book?
Okay, good question. So, do you know that every thundercloud we see, even before it rains, you already start feeling you need to get out of the outdoors, get back indoors, and run away, because anything could happen. You could either be in Africa hit by lightning, some people would say, but generally we have a fear of when a thunderstorm comes, we cannot be outside. So this cloud, it always has rain, and it's in a negative aspect. That's how we've been raised to see it. But even that kind of cloud has a silver lining, because as much as there's going to be rain that keeps us indoors, but that rain is going to shower the plants, and it's going to give us water, and it's going to give us the smell of rain that's going to be on the soil. And that means it's not all too bad. There's always something positive behind something bad that happens in our lives. So the cloud has a silver lining, means that no matter what the situation is, whether it's good or bad, there's always something good that's going to come out of it. Always.
Yeah, that's a good one. Knowing that even in the midst of trouble or challenges, there's something we are to learn there, or just something good could come out of that. Or before we dive into maybe taking back the audiences from your upbringing, like where you've been always a writer, reader, or have you even thought about writing? Like, was it part of your aspiration and dream? And how was your upbringing like? Yeah, maybe you could take the audiences back to your upbringing.
Mm. Well, my upbringing was actually quite um, emotional, if I may say, because I grew up in boarding school. And when you grow up in boarding school, it means you hardly ever see your parents, and your own identity is questionable because other people see their moms and dads every day, and they can say this, yo, because of my mom, I did this, because of my dad. But I saw them hardly ever. Like, I saw them on holidays and weekends, once in a month, something like that. And um, very often I would get hurt by someone saying, well, your parents don't love you. That's why they sent you away to boarding school. And it was not entirely true. They had their reasons, but as a child, you don't always understand those emotions and what to do with them, you know. And although it helped me in a lot of ways, I became a very independent individual because of that. I stand on my own. I agree on something if it makes sense. I question the things that don't make sense, and I stick to what works best for me on my own, with or without the advice of people. Of course, I do seek advice, but I'm able to do things on my own, mostly without consulting my parents. And when I do finally tell them, it's because I'm reporting what I did. More like I'm telling you what I did, not seeking your advice on how to do it, you know. And that's the kind of life I've had, which also meant I had a lot of misguided relationships along the way, and a lot of heartbreak came from my perception. You know, when you live so far from your parents, the little bit of them that you see either affects you on an overdose level or a little bit. So if, for example, your dad might have cheated on your mom, and that one weekend you go home and you find your mom crying so badly, hey, your dad is cheating on me. From that point on, you hate your dad, and you don't even do the research or anything like that. You just have that thing. Ah. But on the other hand, you meet your dad, and your dad says, well, your mom pushed me to do it. Okay. And then you're like, but mom, you did it. And eventually I took on some of those characters. I went and I started practicing what my parents are doing. So I went and cheated. Especially in my teenage years, I reasoned within myself that since my dad is cheating, that means I can do it too. I don't need one partner. I can have three or four, and it's possible. He did it, so I can too. And yeah, those kind of bad lessons I had in life, in a way shaped me and either redirected me back to the real truth of who I'm supposed to be. And they lead you to actually meeting Christ and knowing your true identity through experiencing the bad and the good at the same time. So I had a lot of that in my upbringing. Um, Spaces away from parents, and choices that I made on my own, good and bad ones. And they all built me up to be the person I am today.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think even just the non-glamorous of it, right? Uh, I'm hearing that from all this upbringing, it's now that brought the birth of the cloud has silver lining.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share with the audiences how many chapters are in your book. what's your favorite chapter? And yeah.
Well,
Hmm.
okay, brother. Oh, I wish I could tell you the story of how this actually happened because when you write poetry, you don't
Yeah.
plan, I'm going to write this emotion in chapter 17. Okay. You write
Mm.
according to what's happening in your mind right now. I feel angry. I could kill a boat or something like that. So
Yeah.
eventually, when I put these chapters together, I had to categorize, and that took forever to
Mm.
categorize. And I must say, let me tell you how many chapters there are. There's one, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 chapters.
Right.
And my favorite is actually Solid Gold. That's the chapter that was written about family. My
Mm.
father, my mother, my sister, and the brother that I never had.
Oh, wow. How about that you read us the brother that you never had?
I knew you'd ask that one. Gosh. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna choose the
That
brother
sounds so
that.
good.
Yeah. So it's titled Brother. I never had a brother, but I always wondered what having one was like. Someone whom I could bother to use his plate and ride his bike. I wondered what walking to school with him would be like. Walking the walk and talking the talk. He'd be so cool. I'd be calling him Bra Mike. He'd be the Jordan, and I wouldn't need a Nike. All I'd ever have to do is see what he does, make his whole experience my extra class, use his previous books to help me pass, copy his assignments, that would make me boss. When bullies came knocking at my door and strong guys hold me to the floor, he would find out and beat them so sore. He would make sure I'm bothered no more. In our private time, he'd teach me how to fight. He would teach me to stand for what's right. He would show me shortcuts to escape for the days when he's out of shape. But then I started looking and didn't like the truth I found. Some of my friends had brothers. They often complained and didn't want their brothers around. They said their bedrooms produce the loudest sound. They get bullied when their parents aren't around. But it gets worse. Some brothers don't fight for their brothers. They just tease them for being weak around others. They get the toys first and pass them to their younger. They set standards that younger brothers must keep. And when it's time to help with homework, they laugh and say, ha ha ha, it's not that deep. Maybe not having a brother was not so bad after all. Having seen what I saw, I realized there is no flaw between the haves and the have-nots. I'd be my own brother. I'd make my own laws, learn to fight, ride my own bike, and bite. I'd do my own assignments, and whether I pass or fail, life would just be right, with or without.
Oh, wow. That's brought a little bit of emotion to myself, the haves and have not, and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sentimental. It sounds emotional. It's carrying the true heart of who you are. I even it's just seeing you through your camera, I can see how much passion you're carrying and just the charisma that I believe that you are exhibiting to the audiences right now. Yes. And maybe before we go to the more juicy part of the book, how can they get hold of your book? Is it
Okay.
available on Amazon? Is it only in hard copies? Yeah, maybe you can share with the audiences on that.
All right. So this book is available on about 7 different platforms. While I'm in China, I made copies, of course. So those of you who are in China can get it on WeChat. You just send me a WeChat message and I'll send it to you via SF. Otherwise, in South Africa, it's available on takealot.com. They do printouts as well and send it to you within 7 days. It's available on Smashwords, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, Vivilio, Thalia as well. So as long as you search for the name, I mean, my name is quite long and hard, but if you type Tshepo Matlhekethla on any of those platforms, that's the one book that will pop up. You can't get
Yeah,
it wrong. Yeah.
yeah.
But if
All
you type
right.
that cloud has a silver lining, you might find the other people that wrote something similar. And then, yeah, so you have to search for the name, search for my name.
Right. Oh, that's cool. Would you love to give us another piece from the book?
Of
We want
course.
to. Yes.
Oh man, that
Mm,
depends. You want something
yes.
sad or something alive?
Something alive.
Okay, no
Let's
problem.
see when you now met that silver lining.
Okay, so I wrote a poem called I Love You, especially
Okay.
because I love you can be a cliche, so it is often misused. And I wanted to write this so that I break the cliche into meanings of what somebody says or what somebody's trying to say when they say I love you. Okay, so here you go. I love you, and I feel that I can never say it enough. I love you, and I see that in your eyes there's a bigger word you want to hear. I love you, and yet I seek a better way to express how I feel. I love you, and to me that means I want you to love me. I love you, and it also means I want you to need my arms around you because I would freely donate them for you to keep them on you and use them as you wish. I love you. And I would like you to ask me for my ears so that you can record all your thoughts in them. I love you. And that means I can create new space in my memory to keep memories of you. I love you. And I intend on seeing you do whatever you want to do in the way you want to do it for me to comment on it. I love you. And I hope your scent becomes the reason why my nose is blocked and that I can complain about you to someone. I love you. And if that means I can for once see you engulfed by me in the same way that I'm engulfed by you, then surely I have lived my life to the full. I love you. To the point that writing about you in riddles and rhymes is not fine. Frankly, my Frankenstein, loving you freaks me out, for I frequently flame in fumes of frantic fury for fear of framing a picture of life without you in it. I love you. And that eventually means that I die for you, with the hope that my love for you will portray the love that Christ had for me and you. I love you, not with distances, nor depths, nor measures the human eye can fathom, but I love you, and so I wrote this for you.
Wow. Beautiful. Life is such, ah, what I would say, life is such a beautiful way to reward us as human beings. And that I love you sounds like it was a big reward for you. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was.
I was gonna ask what inspired you to write the book, but clearly you will speak of the beauty and the hardship that have gone through your life. That was what inspired you. But even though I am having an idea of what inspired you, can you share what inspired you to really compile everything into
Oh,
this? The cloud has a silver lining.
okay. Well, now your question at least is specific as to compile it together. Okay. So I had already written these poems over a
Yes.
period of years. I had notebooks. The notebooks were about A5 size and they had about 92 pages or something like that. And I would fill them up with poems and just put them in the rack or put them in some storage at home. And I never thought of putting them together
Mhm.
until the day I shared this poem with my mom and my dad. And at the time, I wanted them to know how much they mean to me. And they looked at me and they're like, when are you going to write a book that you can publish of your poetry? I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
yeah, I should be doing that. So I started, I bought a new book, like an A4 book, and I started putting all my poems into that book, like copying them from that notebook into the bigger one. And I just put them together, compiled them, tried to, put some order to it, and then I just forgot about it. Someday, I don't know, something, I lost interest and I just put it away somewhere until I came to China. And then when I came to China, I was working at a kindergarten. So every day we had about 2 hours free time. And I would be there playing games. This one time I was playing games for the whole 2 hours and I didn't take a nap. And eventually I started getting that motivation to want to buy the stuff on the games. And then I spent 200, 400, eventually I spent 899 RMBs on a game. And an epiphany hit me. I'm like, why am I wasting my time and my money on a game that I cannot share with anybody, when I could have actually taken the time to do something productive with my life? And then the thought came back, your book, you need to publish your book. And I thought, oh yeah, but it's in South Africa. And then I stopped playing games. I just started mobilizing my sister to bring all the notebooks, send them over to China. And I spent the next 6 months compiling the book, putting it into a laptop, typing all my poems and preparing it for publishing. And finally, I sent it to the publishers because of that epiphany.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds relatable. But yet, from learning from that is, how are you spending your time? Where are you putting your time and money? Is it productive, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I would urge the audience, as you listen, please go and purchase the book A Cloud Has a Silver Lining, or simply search for Tshepo. I think Matter. Okay, can you pronounce your name? Spell
Ma,
out for the audience, yeah, your name, okay?
Matlhekethla.
Okay, how to pronounce your surname.
That's my
Spell it
surname.
out. Yes,
Okay, let me
spell
spell it out. The spelling is Matlheketla. Matlheketla.
Great. Okay, so do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have a
I
social platform?
Yes, my YouTube channel is alive and active. Well, I haven't been active on it for quite some months now because I've been on vacation. But I have posted about 8 or 9 of my poetry on my YouTube channel so that it starts the trend of uploading, if possible, all of them. And I have intent to make it more of an interactive poetry session so that I don't just share the poem, but I get people to discuss and talk about the poetry in the future. And yeah, that's what it's called. It's a portal space, and you will find it on YouTube. I'll even give it to you so that you could add it to the link at the bottom.
Yes,
For
I'll do that. So let you check in the description box. We'll leave all the details about Tshepo in the description box so that you can also go directly to the websites where you can buy his book. And before we almost round up the discussion, so I wanted just to share, to ask you, you've mentioned that you have been writing over a period of time. When did you, what age have you exactly started writing, or which year have you started writing, and how long have you been writing this book, The Cloud Has a Silver Lining? Yeah, you can share that journey. Did you experience any struggles? Was it easy breezy kind of experience? And what maybe would you say to an inspired author out there who would love to write, but maybe they're not seeing the silver lining in their own journey?
I like your question. Okay, I'm gonna start
Yeah.
with when did I start writing? I started writing in matric, the last month of grade 12. I was sitting with my friends, and we were at the boarding school at that time, and I wanted to express something, but I just sat down and I wrote while they were busy chattering in the room. And then one of them grabbed the paper out of my hand and read it to the rest of them. And when he read it, he's like, "Hey, what are you writing here?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just expressing my emotions. Like, this sounds like a poem." I'm like, "Really?" And I took the paper back and I read it. I'm like, think I've got a talent going on. Mind you, I did not like poetry at all, especially because of one of our teachers in grade 12, Mrs. Fosler. Oops, I'm not allowed to mention names, but
Sorry.
she made us not like poetry. It sounded so boring. But when I started writing it, it felt more modern and relatable because it's people in our generation that I'm writing to. And I took that poem as an indication that I actually have an ability. And then, unfortunately, when I bragged about it at university level, some girls took it and never brought it back. They kept my
Mm.
poem. I don't even know what the title of the poem was. Ha! So as a result, I had to write more poems. And that's when I bought a notebook and I would write whenever I felt sad or very happy or emotional, or I couldn't understand my own emotions. If I may tell you this, my parents went through a divorce in grade 12, the end of my grade 12, going to my first year. So in that first year, I was needing somebody I could talk to, and I felt neither of them would understand me. So that's when my poetry book became my best friend. I wrote all the deep emotions in there of how I felt. Might not have been about them, but it was just my own emotions, what I was going through. And it was some form of healing power for me because I could deal with the emotions. And as a result, then the book just kept on getting full because I had a lot to write about. And and then I filled the first one, then I filled the second one, and I filled the third one. Writing the poems was very easy. It was
Mm.
the putting them together under different themes that was difficult. So
Mm.
if you're going to be a poet, just know that that is a challenge you might have to face. Like right now, I can write a book filled with nursery rhymes. Okay, I could make 20 of them up, but that's because I knew the struggle I went through of categorizing things. And yeah, so you kind of have to plan ahead. If you're going to write a book, you have to plan. This is strictly for nursery rhymes. You don't diverge. I'm
Mm.
writing poetry strictly for love, and then you don't diverge, and that will make the process smoother and easier. But if you're writing like me over a period of 12 years and putting it together, it makes it kind of hard.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have spoken on challenges when putting them into chapters or categories, right? Um, what do you really wish, as people encounter you in different platforms, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's reading your book, what do you wish for the readers to really take away when they come across your art?
Mm. No, I like that you call it art.
It
You
is.
know, it is. When you look at an art piece, you are
Mm.
actually looking into a mirror,
Mm.
and the mirror gives you what you already have in your mind, and you analyze it according to what you think it is. You describe it. And that's basically finding yourself and allowing yourself to be yourself and accept yourself and love yourself. That's what a mirror is supposed to do. But we don't know that. And we just jump in front of a mirror like, oh, who's this ugly person? And you start judging yourself. So I want my book to be like a mirror. You go in there and you identify who you are as an individual. How do I relate to this emotion? And if I can take this moment of my current emotion and transform it into something that will work in my favor, then so be it. That's exactly what the book should do to you. I mean, let me give you an example. I read two poems for you. I read the brother poem. Whether or not you have a brother, after reading the poem Brother, you have a new perspective of, do I still need a brother if I didn't have one? But you also have the perspective of, I should actually appreciate my brother. My brother was actually a good brother. All right. Or if you had a brother and my brother was bad, okay, even though my brother was bad, some people didn't have a brother. So either way, I'm still on top. And you come out of there having reflected upon yourself as if you were looking into a mirror. And you are now equipped to better deal with your current circumstance.
Yeah, your art being a mirror for others to find themselves. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, we'll be opening up the for the audiences to ask you questions. And my final question is, where do we see you in like 5 years when it comes to your creativity and all that? Where, like, what is the bigger vision rather? And are we expecting any other book already? Maybe have published another book that is not on featured in Visual Book Tour 2024, because this episode is in collaboration with the Visual Book Tour 2024 that is headed by sister Jenny, who is not here with us, but would love to upload the team of Active Core just to say that what they're doing is an amazing work of bringing authors from different parts of the world together to share their story and work with global sway or global communities. I think that is really, really powerful. It's almost feels like a village closer from Jamaica to South Africa to Namibia to China. That is what the Visual Book Tour 2024 has been doing. And I've joined last year with my book as well. This year, I'm taking part as a contributor for like interviewing and stuff like that. But I'm really looking forward to Visual Book Tour becoming a bigger and bigger platform for all the authors. Yes. So coming back to Tshepo, what is your 5-year vision, or what do we expect from you as an author? Are you already having another book in line? Yes, please share with us.
Okay. I have started writing a book. I decided not to expose the title, but it's a journal of what a person goes through after an addiction. And this time the book is not meant to be poetic. If there are poetic devices in the book, that'll be great. It'll be just for that one day. Maybe I was feeling very poetic in my writing, but it's more of a walk through the daily steps of a person who was once an addict and is finally free from their bound in chains. And that's going to be my next book. In years later, I think if possible, I would like to write a book every 1 or 2 years, so that I keep all the things that I feel are valuable on paper and as references for those who will need it in the future.
Okay, so we're expecting more and more books. So follow his YouTube channels, follow his platforms, and go out and purchase his book. If you're in China, you can obviously order a copy from him directly. We'll share all the details, how to contact him, through the description box. Yeah, all right. Thank you. Let me appreciate the audiences. Nadine, thank you for being here. Nomatheba. Sorry for mispronouncing your name.
Nomathemba.
Nomatheba. Thank you for being here. Tshepo, thank you. Of course, speaking to Tshepo. KB, thank you for being here. Really do appreciate all of you being here to support our brother Tshepo, who had published his book called A Cloud Has a Silver Lining. If you have any question, Nadine, do you have any question to our author Nomathemba? Do you have any question? And KB, you are welcome to share any of your questions. Just simply unmute and then you can go ahead and question.
Okay, I'll start by just saying happy to see you here in the virtual book tour. We connected on WeChat, and I sent him this thing about the virtual book tour, and said it was a good thing he could join. So I'm happy that he joined and is being part of it. So I hope it has been a great experience for you so far. And my question to you were talking about, I like how you put up what they call this antithesis in that poem about brothers. So you're showing the good side, then you're showing the expectation versus what really happens in reality. And then in that one about love, kind of similar, looking at, something you can't really explain, this thing of love. It has so many different facets. You said you just started writing poetry, but are there any poets that you admire and that you read and that you've been inspired by?
You won't believe that my ultimate favorite poet is actually alive. His name is KB Kilobyte. He was a student together with me at university, and he used to recite his poetry at a poetry slam. So very often I thought poetry was always in a book, and that you'd have to be reading it off of something. And I thought poets are all dead, like William Shakespeare and Robert Browning. But he was alive. And I was like, okay, so poets do exist and they are alive, and they write things that are relevant for now, like today, to use now. And I never told him he was my favorite. KB Kilobyte. You can actually find him on YouTube. He posted a couple of poems before he stopped posting, and I really like the way he does poetry and how he's so relevant to our generation. And punchline after punchline, he always amused me. I have even had the honor of being on stage with him at one stage. In fact, he used to tell me that, if you believe something is yours, you don't have to read it out. You can memorize it. It's your words anyway. So there's no pressure. Just go ahead and do it. So we'd memorize our poetry in order to perform at slam poetry events and live poetry events. And yeah, that really sparked a lot of inspiration in me to keep writing and keep publishing.
Okay. So do you do much spoken word poetry then? Are you doing writing and spoken word?
I wish. Oh, I have unfortunately grown up and kind of gotten very far from the group of poets that I used to meet up and share poetry with. So they are now worlds apart. Everybody's an engineer or something of that sort. I would really love to be part of slam poetry and spoken word. So instead, what I do now is write it. I put it in my notebook for the day that I'm gonna need it. And then if I ever have a chance to perform something, I memorize it and go on stage for that.
Thank you.
Maybe very nice questions.
Mm.
Thank you, Nadine, for asking some questions. I think those were really relevant and beautifully said. Noma Timber said that he doesn't have any question, but he mentioned, however, all the best to Tshepo. Yeah, all the best.
Thank you.
It's really, really beautiful. Yeah, it's just amazing to know that we are sharing our art with even the present generation. It's, as you mentioned, maybe some poets from the past, you've read their books and you're like, they're dead, they're gone. Yeah. But if the current generation is actually sharing the stories, even through poems, I think that is something remarkable. And KB, do you have any question? You're welcome to ask any question. If you do have, you can simply unmute and just go ahead and ask a question.
I don't have any questions for Tshepo. We're actually friends, so
Hey,
I know everything I need to know, right?
He was there on the day I wrote my first poem.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's so amazing. All right. Thank you for being here, KB.
But unfortunately, that first poem, that's the only one I know, right? Yeah, so but I wanted to ask, right, after hearing the brother poem, right? Because I know he grew up in boarding school, right? And in boarding school, as a boy or as a girl, you're always surrounded by your peers, right? Some younger, some older. But since he wrote that brother poem and I listened to what he had to say, my question now becomes, based on the I would say blood brother, right, from home or older brother, something like that, has he written something that combines the blood brother and the brotherhood he got from boarding school? Because I'm a boarding school kid from grade 1, right, up until matric as well. So I would like to know if he has written something or thought about writing something or combining his brother poem with something like that. Because I know as a boarding school kid, even though I had a brother, your peers from boarding school, they are more of brothers, even though you're the same age, but they mean a whole lot more to you than you actually realize at the time, right? Because you spend time with them every single day. The only time you don't speak to them or spend time with them is maybe on weekends when you're home or on holidays. But the minute you come back, morning, evening, afternoon, night, yeah, we actually slept super late most of the nights with Tshepo. 2 o'clock, wake up at 5. I don't even know what we were doing that like that late, Monday to Thursday. But anyway, that's what I wanted to know from him, is if he's planning on writing something, or if he has written something regarding his experiences from boarding school, but particularly from one side as like a boy, right? He might have written something regarding the whole experience, teachers, school, relationships. But what I wanted to know is, has he written something from that one side, from a brotherhood, boy, and growing up? I mean, he has mentioned something about fighting, but yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
KB. Yeah, well, that's a very good question, Eve. I mean, frankly speaking, even the brother that I wrote about, that I had in my imagination, was as from observing these brothers that were in boarding school, the people I grew up with. Because I mean, I envied them, honestly speaking. So we were always brothers, and people would talk about, my brother did this for me and this, and I had no reference for that. And that's how this poem actually came about. I have never written about my boarding school life, especially because I was living it. The things that I wrote about most of the time were those that I wished I could live, or I was not certain about, so I put it on paper. That's why they always caused a certain kind of emotion that I did not understand, and it ended up on paper. So if I had not been living the boarding school life, I would have written about it, because I would have been talking from a desire point of view. But I was living there. I was there. So I did not write about it.
Okay. I think if Tshepo were to write a book, right? If any of us, let's say from our group, if any of us were to write a book, I would probably write 2 pages and that would be it. But his boarding school life, right? His was the one with most, like, I don't know how to put it. It's like moments, right? He would
Yes.
have he would have he would have a whole bunch of things happening, and it was weird because, like, if I would write something, yeah, it would be short. But his, oh my god, it would be it would be this. It would be a thesis, PhD thesis, something like that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, and I love it. But I wish all the best to Tshepo. He knows he's my brother, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful that he's actually writing a book. And how do I put this? How do I put this? Writing something for somebody somewhere to understand and relate to, and actually probably heal, or might get help from it, or yeah, move forward from whatever they're experiencing at the time, right? But yeah, that's wonderful.
Thanks, my guy. Thanks.
Yeah. Right. Thank you so much to KB and Nadine for the questions. Thank you for Tshepo sharing your journey and sharing your story, and also giving us this wonderful piece of art that we get to experience now, even when you're there or you are somewhere else. Like now you're in China, so you get actually to share it with the world, and that is the power of creating as a writer, as an artist, as a creator of any sort. I think that's really, it's a gift you give to others. Even in your absentia, when you're not there, they can still access you. Yeah. Let's finalize by saying our final thoughts. Tshepo, maybe you could urge people to buy your book, share with them, let them know. Yeah, you can share on that light. Tell them why they should be reading your book, or just share with them. Sometimes people will need reminders,
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Guys, please buy my book, okay? It is valuable information. I put my heart, my life into this, and I know it is relevant not just for people my age, but it's relevant for teenagers, adults, kids,
Mm.
and even elderly people, because it's not just my truth, it's connected with the Holy Spirit, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned from what anybody can. I might have been young, but the spirit was never young when I was going through it. So I urge you to go and buy the book, read it yourself. You might be shocked at how much of yourself you might find in that book, and enjoy it as well. Yes, some of it is meant to be art. You know, art soothes your souls. It soothes your heart. And that's the beauty of poetry. Not only are you learning something, but you enjoying as you learn.
Yeah. All right. And thank you for all the audience, for everyone tuning in to listen, to also tuning in to be part of the recording of the episode. We really highly appreciate. And yeah, stick around for the Global Love podcast. We hope that we'll create more stories, share with more stories with you, everyone across the globe. And until our next episode, we'll say goodbye, and I'll stop recording now.
Bye.
Yay, bye.
Bye-bye.